Lords, here we are on this great day, and this great Sunday, full of the joys of spring, I'm knowing. Absolutely full of the joy of spring. Please pay attention to spring and notice it and appreciate it and bless it and praise it and know it's reflecting your beauty, your grace, your color, your vibrancy, your new life springing up within you. And have a relationship with it and know that all is well. Because just as spring cycles, so do you. Which takes us to the fifth mansion as we penetrate more deeply and fully into the essence of ourselves, the core of ourselves, the soul of ourselves, the spirit of ourselves. And it's getting exciting now. It's getting very, very exciting now. Because we're handling better all the reptiles out there in 1, 2, 3. In zones 1, 2, and 3. We know they're there. They'll always be there. And sometimes they'll get yappy again and snappy again, but we know how to handle them. We know how to handle them because we've made pets of them already. That's what I'm knowing if we're following these Sundays and indeed reading the book, which is great. Because the book, I'm doing not even this much of what's in the book. Anyway, the fifth mansion, in it we are invited to dissolve into holiness. A scary word for some people, holiness, because we've always thought that belonged to the few, the great ones, the priests, the nuns, and all those holy, pious people far away from our company. Not so. You don't get out of it that easily, and neither do I. We're all called to it, this thing called holiness. What is it? It's wholeness, but it's not holistic wholeness as we know it as a human being. It's cosmic wholeness, cosmic completeness. It's oneness. It's that state of understanding. I'm everything and everyone is me. And it's all good. It's all wonderful. It's all holy. Holy, holy, holy. It's a word we should not be afraid of because it's the essence and nature of our being. And it has to do with cosmic wholeness and cosmic completeness. And in this fifth mansion, we can do that. We can dissolve ourselves into that state of holiness, of oneness, at one-ment. And when we do that, what happens is we go into a transcendence, a transformation, and that we are transformed from the body or material matter into the soul, which is ethereal, non-matter, material substance that's invisible and cannot be seen. That's what happens. And when does that happen, and how does that happen? It happens when eventually your soul so ignites because of that great understanding and feeling and awareness of the power and the presence of spirit within us, and it's on fire with it. That's when it happens. That's when the dissolving occurs. Ignition has occurred and dissolving now moves. The light, the fire dissolves all of that which is outside of this experience that belongs to the first three dimensions. And the outer world, beautiful though it is, with all of its distractions, all of its seductions, all of its addictions, etc., etc., etc. Well, here in this fifth mansion now we're much more deeper into the soul, and we're much further out of the awareness of all of that. So you have this dissolution. You have this wonderful thing that is occurring. And what is that looking like according to the great Saint Teresa? She calls this the prayer of union, which she equates with the mystical marriage, when we are so on fire with that sense of a power and a presence greater than we are, and it so engulfs us that we have now merged into it. We are no longer experiencing being before God. We are experiencing being in God, which is so very, very, very different. So that's how it happens. That's how it occurs. And it occurs by you and me being faithful in the three outer mansions or states of consciousness to spiritual practice. But you see, when you're in the fifth mansion and you have merged and you have entered into the mystical marriage and you have become one with your source, there is no more spiritual practice or spiritual exercises. There's no need for any of it. We are one. We are one. And in this state, we are above and beyond reason. We are above and beyond logic. Why are we above and beyond reason and logic? Because reason and logic belongs to that which is filled with longing and yearning and angst, and it comes from a panicked ego. That's where logic and reason comes from. The need to know. I need to know exactly what's going on. I have to know, I have to have my list. I have to know what I'm expecting. I have to know the outcome of this. I have to know that by the end I take this course, that I'll have this and I'll have achieved that, and I will have had an experience with God if I do all of that, and if I pay my money and I spend all that time and I have to know. I must know. That's a load of baloney in the spiritual world. You get to know nothing. You have to go on faith. You have to jump across where there is no bridge and know that there'll be a bridge there for you to land on. That's what you have to do in the spiritual realm. So there's no need for logic, there's no need for reason when you are dissolved into the union and the oneness and the yumminess of what it is to have no agenda and be off schedule and be outside of time, no longer bound by the restrictions of time and space. No longer restricted by a body. The body dissolves itself too. There's only that sense of the fullness of being, which I can't describe to you, and nobody else can, and if they do, go away from them because they don't know what they're talking about. Because there's no words to describe that, it's impossible. And as Caroline Mace reminds us, people are talking more about a spiritual experience when they're using metaphors. Say, well, it's like something. It's like something. It's like something. But being like something is not the thing itself. It's just a little bit like that. But it's that and more kind of thing. So much more. And so what happens in this kind of spiritual transformation, we talk about, hey, it's not all just sweetness and light. It's a mystical marriage. And in marriage, there are challenges. And in the mystical marriage, there's a challenge too. Very often we go into phases of what is called the dark night of the soul. We go into spiritual isolation, we go into spiritual depression, we go into spiritual, what's it all about, Alfie? Am I kidding myself? Is this all a joke? Maybe I should be ordinary again, same as everybody else. But that's authentic and that is real, and that's part of the process of unwinding. For as long as you and I are wearing any kind of a body, that's what we will have. The only thing about this mystical marriage thing and the prayer of union and the experience of oneness is that when you get back from it, your first thought is, oh gosh, I can't wait to get back there again. See, it's like when you smoked, can't wait for the next cigarette or whatever it is, you know. It's that kind of real nice, but except it's a very affirmative feeling. There's no negative attached to it because it's a good state to be in. And some of us might say, well, why bother with all of this mystical stuff? It is so impractical. It just doesn't make, good sense. Well, not to the ego, it doesn't. And it does seem impractical to the ego. But what's impractical, really, is our tendency toward staying at the level of negative experiences. What's practical about anger and jealousy and envy and resentment and unforgiveness and all the rest of it? What's practical about that? Whereas on the other hand, the practicality of being in a mystical experience, when you come back from it, you find yourself, you're more compassionate, you're kinder, you're more generous, you're more given, you're more patient, you're more open, you're more receptive, you're more allowing, you're more receiving, you're more welcoming, and so on. So that very quickly for me gets shot down, the impracticality of it. Now, it doesn't matter how holy you become, how whole, how integrated, how congruent you become. There will be times when you will face the same challenges as you did before, except this time you will know how to handle them, and you know they're part of a process, and you know they'll be going just the way they came. They'll be out of there. And it won't trouble you, because you and I will be coming from let nothing disturb you, nothing affright you. All things are changing. Alone God never changes. Patience gains all things. And You who have God, you have everything. Alone God suffices. So you take the first line of that prayer and the last line of prayer. Let nothing disturb you. Alone God suffices. And you've come from that, you see. So you move through your dark night of the soul just the way you would move through anything, a visit to the dentist or whatever, that root canal or whatever it is. Now, along the way, you and I get opportunities to be transformed, and the great Saint Teresa describes this kind of transformation as like coming from being a silkworm into a butterfly. And it's a very good analogy because it's a complete change and a complete transformation. So we go from crawling on the ground, stuck in the mud on the ground, we go from crawling there with a very small perspective to becoming this beautiful light being butterfly that can fly and have a much wider experience of life and living and a deeper perspective of it all. And it's a fabulous thing. So believe it or not, you and I have cocooned this lifetime many times. We may not have been aware of it, but that time comes to us all. What is it that causes us to move into a cocoon? I'll tell you what causes it. It could be anything like a divorce, an illness, a loss of a dear one, a loss of a job, a huge change in our lives that causes us then to go into this state of surrealness. It's like you're in a bubble, or you're in a glass egg or something, and you know you're here, and your perspective is that of just feeling this terrible estrangement and all these noises blending around you as in you're in a tunnel. And that's how you feel sometimes in these states of great loss or challenge. And then something begins to tighten in you, Now, you have two ways of responding to this. I can either know, oh my God, I'm thresholding, I'm on the verge of something great, I'm about to make a phenomenal breakthrough. I'm going to have an amazing experience as a result of all of this pain and sorrow and sadness and suffering that I am experiencing, whether it's real or not, but I'm experiencing. You feel that time, and you feel the call. It's time to go to the hermitage. It's time to find that high place. It's time to climb. It's time to cocoon. Come higher, friend, is the feeling underneath all of the shadiness and the darkness and the pain. There's something underneath saying, be still and know, be still and know. Don't get panicky, don't get frightened. This is not just the terrible, horrible, bad thing that you think it is. There's more to this than what you are feeling. What you are feeling is genuine, but there's more to it than what you are feeling. Come higher, climb. Let the stiffening occur. And then you find yourself climbing up that branch, and you allow yourself to be still, and you allow the silk to surround you, to become a womb for you, out of which you will rebirth yourself into something greater than what you took into that cocoon. And that process will take however long that process will take. It'll be whatever that process is going to be. But if you can trust, if you can surrender, if you can say a tender yes and a sweet surrender and say, this is shocking, it's terrible, it's horrible, I don't like it, but I know that good can come out of it. I know good can come out of this. I know there's something greater in store for me as a result of this experience, or I would not be in this experience. And then what happens is you begin to relax, you begin to feel the warmth, the coziness of this wonderful soft shell. And you begin not to be scared by the narrowness and the tightness of it, but you relax into it, and you relax into it, and you relax into it. And what is happening is you're undergoing the transformation, you're undergoing that archetypal death and rebirth experience. And eventually the warmth and the fire of the power of the presence within you begins to warm you, and you begin to break through the silk, and the wings begin to appear. And the new emergence of you begins to appear. And as you do, you feel the more warmth and lighter and more warmth and so on. And then eventually the sun is kissing you, which is the power and the presence of spirit, and you are ready to magnificently now, as this spectacular new creation, take flight into a newness that you could never have imagined before. That's what happens if you and I move through the dark night of the soul in faith, in trust, and sticking close to source. Even though we're not feeling it, we're not believing it, we're not thinking it, nothing gives us any sense that this is going to happen or will be so. Nothing, and everything's pointing in the opposite direction. I'm finished, I'm done for, this is it. No use living, no purpose in life or living. That's the feeling you have. I'm the walking dead. I have no sense and sensibility of being alive. I just don't care. None of it makes sense anymore. And that's the opportunity when we're there and deep in that to assume the process of cocooning and transformation and newness and rebirth. That's there for you, that's there for me, and that's there for everybody. And it's not just for a Mother Teresa or the great Saint Teresa or for the Dalai Lama or for any great person we can think of that has overcome so much and been transformed as a consequence of it. It's your life, it's my life too, because there is only the one life. And each one of us is living that one life according to our way of thinking and feeling and responding and being. According to our way of thinking and feeling and responding and being. And let me tell you, you and I know, and we've known for a long time, that thoughts are things. But they're not only things. They affect things. They affect things, your thoughts and mine. We know this, but we don't practice this except when our back is up against the wall. It's a selective way of practicing that my thoughts create my experience. We don't pay the slightest bit of attention to that until things go wrong. And then we say, oh yeah, thoughts have power and I can use my thoughts and so on and so forth. And then we wonder when we start doing that for 5 minutes why it doesn't all turn out right straight away. It's a process, it's a practice process, and it's not going to happen just because all of a sudden you wake up and say, okay, I really do believe, now make it happen. That's not the way it works. It only works when you and I have formed a deep relationship with our inner beingness, with our soul, with the godliness within ourselves, with the infinite intelligence within ourselves, with the life force within ourselves, with that intuitive intelligence that knows exactly how to take care of business. And that takes time. I have to unlearn something before I can learn this. And I have to be practicing with my thoughts for a while before I begin to really and truly see the changes occur in my life for the better. So I can't be so casual about all of this. We are so darn casual, as the good Carolyn Mace points out. We're so casual about everything, especially spirituality. She said we've lost all sense of the sacred, all sense of reverence and honoring for the sacred. Somebody sticks a Bible in our hand and we say, you swear in the Holy Bible. We say, oh, sure. Just like that. We don't take off our shoes, she says, anymore in sacred places and get a sense of the reverence of it all. We just don't. We've let go of our sense of sacredness with all of our rituals that we've let go of too. And remember, the human being does respond to rituals and is a very ritualistic kind of energy and responds to rituals. Likes rituals, need rituals, which is cycles too. Cycles and rituals. But oh no, 50 years ago or so, she says we let all of that go and we threw the baby out with the bathwater. So we have to stop being so casual about the true essence of ourselves, each other, and all of life. and to start to treat it like the big thing that it is, the huge thing that it is, and respond to it with respect, and respond to it with awe and wonder, and respond to it with that sense of reverence that causes us to indeed pranam, and that's a pranaming. When did we last bow to life truly, truly bowing to its force and its power and its presence? And when I'm pranaming to life like this, I'm pranaming to the life outside of me and the life within me. And there's some urge in me to want to do that keeps being ignored most of the time. Well, now the time has come to stop ignoring our spiritual side of life once and for all, because that's the true aspect of our being. It's the essential part of us. It's the continuum of our beingness. It's that which goes on and goes on and goes on. This does not. This gets recycled and morphs itself into something else. I don't know whose recycled body I'm wearing at the moment, but it's recycled energy, that's all I know. And I'd like to leave mine in a pretty darn good state for somebody else to feel they got a good deal on the recycling on the other side. You know. Because all life is interwoven, and all life is one life, and that one life is happening right here and right now. So you are a breath of me as I am a breath of you. You are a part of me as I am a part of you. Like it or lump it. That's the way it is. We are all mirrors for each other. And sometimes we find ourselves looking into irritating mirrors. And people find themselves looking into irritating mirrors. But nevertheless, that's part of you and part of me. I wouldn't be seeing it if it wasn't first in me. I wouldn't be experiencing it if it wasn't first in me, because guess what? What I put out comes right back to me. And that's why I experience when I didn't deserve that. I don't even know that person, and they were so awful to me. That has nothing to do with anything. There's one person, one life, and we're all in it. And we're all going to get feedback and bleed back from all of our thinking, all of our feeling, and all of our doing, whether we seem to think we deserve it or not. So what we do in situations like that is we bless it. We bless it, we bless it, and we say, here's a learning opportunity, Moira. I can respond to this from that panicked ego, that resentful ego, that get her now, get him now ego, slap him down now. Or I can respond to it from my soul, which simply says, Namaste. The light in me greets the light in you, no matter how irritating you are. No matter how much of a lunatic you're being right now. Namaste, namaste, namaste. Even if you have to do it through gritted teeth, namaste. Have a nice day. That's what we're called to. It's as practical as that. It's as just basic and practical and fundamental. It really is. I have to namaste everything up and down the yin-yang, good, bad, and indifferent, with the same reverence, with the same feeling I would have if I was standing before whatever deity I love to think about and be in contact with. I have to have that same reverence standing before some person who's absolutely ready to crucify me right now. See? Now that's when you and I know we're getting it. We're really beginning to spiritually show up as a mature, individualized expression of spirit when we can do that. And here's the kicker. You and I are called to help each other to do that. I have to remind you and you have to remind me, not by knocking me down, but gently nudging me. If I don't get the gentle nudge, then you can pull me up by the shoulder. If it doesn't work, you say, come on, get a grip here. You're going to find yourself kicked up the rumpus and flattened the ground, facing the dirt. Because that's what the universe will do. It'll be gentle in its response to begin with. Come on, dear, now. You can do better. That's not the best of you. Did you hear what I said? Come on. Now you're ready to listen and sit up and take notice, aren't you? My dear ones, I'm just going to leave you with reminding you of the truth of your being, and the truth of your being is nothing like what you think you are. No matter how good you think you are, no matter how perfect you think you are, the truth of your being is nothing like that. Nothing you could think compares to the truth of your being. Nothing you could feel compares to the truth of your being. Nothing you could be compares to the truth of your being. It's awesome. It's incredible. It's huge. It's big. It's vast. It's all embracing and all encompassing. It's glorious. It's grand. It's magnificent. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's amazing. My God, you could build a shrine to yourself if you knew who you were. You could. But now the only one to worship it would be you. Nobody else is going to come and worship it. It's your own shrine, because everybody else has their own shrine too, you see. But you could. So I'm going to ask you all this week, and I'm going to ask myself to start living like I was the truth of my being right now in expression, and to think that way, and to feel that way, and to act that way. Like I am the light of the world, and I will be nothing less than that blessing and that light this coming week. And I will try it for a week, and I'll start out one day at a time. And if it only takes 10 minutes for me to dive into the shadows, I'll get myself back up out again, and I'll start all over. I'll get myself back up, and I'll start over. I'll get myself back up, and I'll start over, until eventually somewhere I'll get a whole day where I was actually the light to the world. Are we on? Yes. So it is.